Now, Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to the show, the one and only Mike Skill of the Romantics. Bonjour, monsieur, as we say in Montreal. How are you?
Hello, Mitch. Doing fine. Doing good.
Good.
Not too
Nice
bad.
to have you. We haven't spoken in a couple of years, actually, or maybe like 3 or 4 last
Yeah,
time.
it's been a little while.
It's been a little while. The new album, of course, available now is called Skill, Mike Skill. Let's get right into that and talk about sort of releasing a solo album at this point, and talk to me about sort of putting it together and what inspired you to get this out at this time.
Well, yeah. Thanks for having me on Rock Talk. And well, the past few years, of course, we've been off for the last year and a half, and uh, just before that, we're on the road. The Romantics were on the road since 1980. I think I was out for 1 year, and but we've never stopped touring. And yeah, as time goes on, I'm collecting ideas and songs. I'm playing guitar at home and on the road, and I'm going by my drummer Brad Elvis's house. And on the way, like I'll do a show in Detroit or other parts beyond. And on the way back, I'll stop off in Chicago where he lives, and we'll go to his house and we'll bang on. I'll bring some songs to him, and we'll jump in the studio over there at our friend's studio, Mike Hagler, and I'll lay down a backtrack. I'll lay the drum track down, a guitar track, and we'll get 2 or 3 ideas down, and then I'll head home and back on the road. And this stuff goes on and on. You go like that, and I'm finishing up song ideas and lyrics and choruses and all that, and before you know it, you've got a good handful of songs. And just before that, I mean, all along with that, I should say, at my other studio I had when my son went to school, I turned the music room, the kids' music room, into a studio. They had a big room, a double wide trailer, wood floor with a good rug on it, and drums sounded great in there. And they'd have their music room in the day, music class in the day, and at night I'd go in there and I'd be there till 2, 3, 4 in the morning creating with all my gear. And I moved to here, got new gear, but I'm collecting songs and finishing up things. I'm taking some of the Brad stuff, drum stuff, and on Kevin Rankin from Flock of Seagulls. He's here in Portland, and he would come in and lay down a track for me, a drum track, or I'd have an engineer do a drum track, and I'd end up with these little babies, these little things, little creations, and I was slowly finishing them off, and I got a good 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, and I ran into Chuck Alcasian out of Detroit, producer out of Detroit, worked with Chris Cornell, and he redid a lot of remixes like Madonna, Eminem, and Fuel. He worked with remixes on Fuel and stuff, production, and I never heard a lot of his stuff, and I took these tracks I had already mixed. I finished and mixed some of them a few years back, and I gave them to Chuck, and he takes them, gives them back to me, and I'm going, oh, these things, I had mixed them, but these were like on another level. They just really jumped off the speaker, so to speak. And I'm realizing I've got a good group of those songs here, and I'm going, man, I can release these things. Then the pandemic hit. I'm on the road. I'm off the road. Never been off the road for 40 years, 4 decades, and I got these songs, and I'm going, these are album worthy. I could do something with these. So I would go into Chuck's to finish up maybe 4 more songs. I think I already had tunes already. Really, we just solidified the whole thing, and it came down to 12 songs, and there you go. We have this little gift package of songs.
Yeah,
which
sound great.
lucky, and I was off the road, so I finished up. I did all the details that needed to be finished up, and got it out. Last year, I released 5 or 6 singles.
Yep.
I think I started with Carrie Got Married, Not My Business, My Bad Pretty. 67 Riot came out before that. I put it out on 45 last year. Uh, you can still get it. I have a few left. 67 Riot with Wayne Kramer
Yeah.
about my days in Detroit when I was 12, 13 years old when the 67 Riot happened.
Well, in fact, let me just quickly ask you about that because the Romantics connection to the MC5, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that is the first band that you opened for, if I got my
Yeah.
history correct. Talk to me about working with Wayne because I saw Wayne on the MC50 tour that he did a couple of years ago, and the guy's a monster. I mean, he's just
Yeah.
moving and sweating. I mean, you could have sworn he was 20.
And that was only one of the real five. And there
Yeah,
were five guys that did that.
yeah.
I
So talk to me
kind
about
of,
having him on this and sort of that sort of cool connection that hey, I opened for you, 40 years ago, and here you are on my album now.
well, yeah, he actually we opened for him when we first formed. Our
Right.
first we got together in just after the punk years, 1976, right around the same time we got together. Romantics came together. Me and Jimmy going to New York. We played CBGBs. We come back. We kind of said, let's just lay back and hang for a while. And uh, I found Wally. I called Wally and told him come on over and I'd like to check you out. And we got Wally together and the Romantics were formed. And the first show was with opening for the new MC5. Wayne wasn't in that at the time. It was just Rob Tyner, the lead singer. And we got the job. We got the gig. They asked us to open for them. They were doing a showcase, and we played that show, and we got a lot of attention because Romantics were just like a. We had this look, the short hair, the skinny ties, the straight pants, the boots, and the orange iridescent suits, and it took off right away. And 4 decades later, I'm still doing it. And I recorded 67 Riot, an idea I had in the last 10 or 15 years ago. I had the idea of the title. And I knew I wanted to write something about the riot, 67 Riot that happened in Detroit. Uh, there had been an incident 2 weeks before that hot July, really hot July. I was about 12 or 13 years old. It sparked off in an area near downtown Detroit, and it went on for a few weeks. And 42 people, citizens were killed, and unfortunately, it was a party. It was actually a homecoming party for 2 soldiers came from home from Vietnam, I believe, and 2 soldiers, and it was a late party. They call in Detroit called it a blind pig. 4 in the morning, goes till 4 in the morning or whatever, and police didn't like that, and things elevated, and I think someone was shot at that bar, that club, and then it went from there all into the downtown area, into the area down there. And the TV ginned it up, and the press ginned it up, and made everybody afraid, and uh, helped get everybody all riled up, and that's what the exit of Detroit. That's how the exit of Detroit started. That's part of it. A little bit was a little before, but people started moving to the suburbs, and then that was kind of the slow degradation of Detroit. And then with with the gas crunch and Japan making cars and that. Anyway, so Wayne Kramer has always been with me from those days. Uh, they had a little 45 came out in 1965 or six. They did I Can Only Give You Everything by Van Morrison. Them did it, and the Five did it in a way. It was like Van Morrison did it in his usual way of under kind of a garage rock back in those days, and then the Five took it to like the Who meets MC5 mixed with avant-garde jazz. It's just like just feedback and rawness, and when us kids, I was youngster then learning guitar. Uh, just after the riots, and I heard that song, and it stuck with me, and that sound just I learned about the Five, the Stooges, Bob Seger, Grand Funk, all these bands coming out of Detroit was right in that area of time, the spot in time. Anyway, so MC5 became like an idol. MC5, these guys are great on stage. You heard all about them. I'd hear stories about Iggy on stage every week, and at the Grandy Ballroom. And I'm just learning guitar, and I have a little band, and so I get, these guys became like my idols. And I'm in the studio with Chuck, and I laid down the track, and it was a great track, and it was just had the lyrics came out really nice. It had a good message, and it had about coming together. Even we have to remember what we've gone through to improve the future with the subject matter. And I told Chuck, I go, Chuck, man, wouldn't it be great to have Wayne Kramer on here? Wayne Kramer from the MC5. And we're in his studio in Detroit. And he goes, call him up. I go, I can't call him. He's like, not an idol, but he's one of my favorite guitarists, like an idol. But him and Fred Smith, these two guys were like incredible on stage, and really a big influence on a lot of guitar players in Detroit. Detroit always had a lot of great guitar players. And so I eventually called Wayne, and he says, Mike, send me the track. And I sent the track, and he called me back, and he goes, Mike, it's a great song. I'd like to do it. I go, just go ahead, do what you do, and lay it down. And about a week later, we get it back, and we listen to it, and I go, Chuck, we can't even touch this thing. We aren't going to turn it down. I mean, we can't cut it up. We can't just leave it, lay it out. And that's what we did. We just kept it the way it was. And it's a pretty fantastic single, 45. It's available still available on MikeSkill.com. It's 67 Riot with Wayne Kramer. It's on vinyl 45.
Before I ask you the next question on the album, let me just ask you about Detroit, because, growing up through the 80s musically with Motley Crue and Quiet Riot, I can tell you all about the Sunset Strip and that scene, and then I can tell you all about the Seattle scene and how it destroyed the 80s scene. But what was Detroit like back then? Because it really was something special. If Kiss wanted to be discovered, they had to go to Detroit. And then you had Ted Nugent and Alice Cooper and Amboy Dukes, and I mean,
even the Who, and
right,
and Page with his new Led Zeppelin, which was called Yardbirds, the new Yardbirds.
Right,
they really came into Detroit. Detroit was
you had to go there to be discovered.
There, yeah.
Just like people in the 80s had to move to Sunset Strip to be discovered.
Or in the 70s, they had to go to London or New York or LA for the punk scene.
Right. So what was it? And were you one of these kids that went to all the shows, and you can sit there and say, wow, I saw Alice Cooper at my, high school dance?
Yeah, I saw Ted Nugent at high school in
wow,
68 or so.
Wow.
He had a group called the Amboy Dukes.
That's right.
And it was an actual band. And they were one of the tightest bands in the city. One of the keyboard players, lead singer, and he actually played a little guitar solos and then played the song. Unlike, it's like a big jam. It's kind of like a long song drawn out and whatever he does. But and they always wore these cool Edwardian flashy clothes, like big collars and fluffy ruffles and the silk pants and everything. It's Ted Nugent. And he had his hair long and kind of bouffant, and it was kind of the psychedelic hard rock predecessor of the metal thing. It's really turned the Fender amps all the way up. Everybody did that anyway in Detroit. But all the guitar players, no one used pedals, no pedals on the floor, no picnic table full of pedals. Anyway, yeah, and you could go see Bob Seger at the Hideout. There's a club called the Hideout, teen clubs, tons of teen clubs. Bob Seger, early Bob Seger, and the Last Herd, Bob Seger System. You'd see a guy called from the Frost, Dick Wagner,
Dick Wagner was the greatest.
Dick
I actually
Wagner.
became friends with Dick Wagner later in life before he passed away and
Wow,
stuff.
nice
And
guy, really nice, great guy, great player.
yeah,
He had a band called the Frost, and then he played. Him and Steve Hunter played on. Steve Hunter was with Mitch Ryder's Detroit.
yeah,
You had
and that,
Mitch Ryder in 1962 playing hard rock soul with Jimmy McCarty, who joined Cactus.
yeah,
Cactus was in the predecessor,
yeah,
was like American Led
yeah,
Zeppelin.
with Carmen Appice.
Appice, yeah, and Tim Moore. And Mitch Ryder was like that, was a big deal at the time before the MC5, just 2 or 3 or 4 years before the MC5 and the Iggy and all that. So there's this whole thing when I was growing up, when I 10 years old, Motown just started out. And Smokey Robinson and all the songs, and radio was blasting all that. So we were a heavy duty music town and a heavy duty working class at the auto plants, open 24 hours, building cars, people in and out all day, all night. And they had these little bars and things that people be playing guitars and that, and 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, whatever, when people got out of work. But a lot of musicians came up from the South and worked in the factory. John Lee Hooker worked at Ford or Cadillac, one of those places. And Hastings Street was where we lived, right down the street from the auto companies, the factories. And so they play at night or play in the day, or play at night and work in the day. And it was just a big, man, it was like a, well, like when you had the Beatles, British invasion, I think the world had the Detroit invasion, rock and roll invasion.
It truly
Yeah,
did. It truly
did. Yeah,
did.
it
And by the
really.
way, let's
Yeah,
take a moment to mention
yeah.
that Dick Wagner and Steve Hunter are one of the most dynamic duos. I mean, from Lou Reed to Alice Cooper's "Welcome to My Nightmare," those two.
Aerosmith
Yeah, the train kept
played on the first
rolling.
Aerosmith album. All those guitars
Yeah,
on Kiss, they played on Kiss.
yeah.
Hunter played on the first Kiss, first
On
couple.
Detroit, yeah, on Destroyers, what they played
Yep,
on.
yep.
What a
Those
killer
guys.
combination, and Bob Ezrin picking them as his
Yeah.
go-to duo. Smart man.
Dick Wagner worked on what was it Billion Dollar Babies from Alice Cooper,
Yeah.
I think, and then a few more. These guys were just give them a Les Paul or an SG and plug it into a Marshall, and they were gone. They were just so good, so good. Steve Hunter, I think, lives in Spain now. So, but anyway,
Does he really? Oh.
yeah, Then you got James Williamson. James Williamson, Raw Power from Iggy and the Stooges. It's another guy who used to play the clubs, teen clubs.
Wow.
He had a band with guys from a group called the SRC. That's a Scott Richard case. If you want to check up a great group, it's SRC, Scott Richard case, where had the first 2 albums are great, really good.
Oh wow. So let me just get over here back to the album for a second, because I could go on and on about all those bands. I mean, one of my greatest stories is about from like 5 years ago, where I got to see Iggy Pop perform in Montreal at this outdoor festival.
Beautiful.
And I watched it from the stage because I had an all access, and standing next to me was Marky Ramone. So it was just like, it's like, man, what
Yeah.
fantasy living.
Yeah.
On the Skill Mike Skill album, you have of course recut What I Like About You.
Yeah.
As I listened to it, I didn't pick up the subtleties, but what is what are the differences, and is any of it have to do sort of with that Activision Guitar Hero lawsuit, and then you're just sort of saying, you know what, I'm going to get the rights back to this, so I'm going to re-record this.
It was really simple. It was really simpler than that. It was just more like a lot of other folks have done the song and play the song, kids playing the song all the time.
Of course.
And it was just time for me to go. I wrote the song with Jimmy, the drummer, and I wanted to do the song. So it'd be a good time to do the song. Actually, it was kind of tied to the 40th anniversary of the band. We were going to do a song for the 40, or do some kind of record or some kind of release, but it never happened with the Romantics. So I sitting at my house, I'm thinking, well, I'm going to do something on the 41st anniversary of the Romantics, because it's 41 years. My 41 years in being in a band and playing live, and I figured I'd do What I Like About You. And I just went in and really pulled out the original amplifier I used. I pulled out the Rickenbacker guitar and put the guitar on it, and just went for it. And it came out so good. I mean, it really has a lot of attitude and energy to it.
Yeah, it sounds great.
But it really works. And I mean, I sing it live with the band. And so it was just kind of a natural thing on an anniversary, an odd anniversary from Romantics, 41 years. But my new putting my foot into the doorway of stepping into having a record out. So
Yeah.
it's like a new beginning with me. And no one really knows. I mean, some people know my name. I mean, they know the Romantics, and I guess, and that's why people call me Skill. They call me Mike, and they call me Mike Skill or Skillbone, because when I was 12 years old, I was so skinny you couldn't see me.
Let me ask you about the big romantic songs for a second. What I Like About You, Talking in Your Sleep, One in a Million. They were all over radio back in the day.
Yeah.
They were all over early MTV back in the day, which is great for the band. Gets you noticed, gets you gigs, gets you opening slots. At some point though, does the record company come to you when you get on to the next, when you start doing Test of Time and Mystified? Do they say to you, hey, I don't hear another Talking in Your Sleep. Would you mind trying to do it? Like, does the record company sort of say, we had success with this one, go write another 10 like that so we can have 10 more successes?
Well, we had there was a turmoil as far as, I don't need to get into it too deep, but
Right.
we did 2 records. The first 2 albums, I'm on guitar, and then I was fired after the second record. The first album comes out, The Romantics. It's out for 1980. And then by the end of 1980, 3 songs have gone on the chart. Tell It to Carry, When I Look in Your Eyes, and What I Like About You. And they all charted around, What I Like About You went to 47 and started dropping off the charts. And the record label and the management started talking about, you guys got to get into the studio and do a new record. And we had just toured the US and Canada. And then here they are talking about putting us in the studio. And it's like really a mind-boggling thing, because you just worked your ass off for 3 years coming up with this music. Well, I had those songs before the band, even some of them. And so here we are, instead of going to parts unknown like Finland, France, Germany, England, we're going back in the studio. It was totally a chaotic thing where I think it was traumatic to the band, and it gave juice to the fact that we were just at odds with each other in a way. I had to come up with new songs, new guitar parts, new solos, Jimmy with lyrics, Wally with lyrics sometimes, and those guys. And the band had to really move into another groove away from what we were doing with the first album, and it really is traumatic. And I created, I'm the kind of person that has tons of guitar ideas, tons of song ideas, and really a spark of the band in a lot of ways. And then the band is a big spark in its own way.
Right.
But so I'm not going to shut up when I'm talking about the look, the art of it, the punkness of it, the way I think it should have an energy or an attitude.
Right.
And it created a lot of tension. And I think the management dropped the ball with the label and the band. And then I was fighting about royalties and stuff. And so I was gone and came back. That's when all this turmoil happened with different members in the band.
Right. When they brought Cause in.
Yeah, Cause came in. That record did nothing. They wore their pink leather suits, which that's what we were arguing about. You're going to wear the same thing on the second record? No, I'm not wearing the same thing on the second record. The same old look, another colorless leather or something. But yeah, I get heated even just talking about it now. But anyway, changes were made. I was out. I came back in because the label said bring Skill back in, or we're getting someone to write the songs. I came back in for In Heat, the fourth record. Uh, I came back on bass, but I was still playing guitar with the band, and uh, I allowed that, I guess. And let's see, I had the bass line for Talking in Your Sleep. Me and Jimmy were jamming or something, but I came up with the bass line, and we had that. It was the last song for the In Heat record. We finished the whole record, and the producer comes out and says, "We need one more song," and we're going, oh geez. And so we gathered together and took that my bass line, and we formed the song "Talking in Your Sleep." So these different ups and downs to get to that one record, and yeah, and so as luck would have it, MTV was just coming along, and uh, so well, that was after the second record. I think that was after the second record after National Breakout. MTV started coming along, and that's when uh, What I Like About You was dropping off the charts, and MTV just kicked it up in the stratosphere. So that's how that happened. Then when with Talking to Sleep, it was just a whole nother vibe for the band. After the punk scene in London, England, and New York, and LA, and Detroit, um, the punk scene was really, you go in the studio, you bash your songs out, and you throw it out on the market. You didn't like really produce it real heavily. You left in all the rawness and everything. And by the time I got back in the band in 1983, um, that scene had changed to a the new romantic scene, where it was heavy duty production, where it was over the top, and uh, you go in the studio and spend tons of money on that and tons of money on videos, uh, as opposed to the punk scene, which was a raw, in your face thing. Uh, anyway, so Talking in Your Sleep was perfect for the time, uh, with the dance vibe and kind of Rolling Stones groove, um, and the label got behind it and went right straight to number two, right behind Yes, Owner of a Lonely Heart.
which was a huge, huge album. In terms of the Skill Mike Skill album, do you plan on going out there and doing solo shows?
Oh yeah, yeah, I played already. I did. Well, there were some benefits I was asked to do about a year ago, but there was two benefits I did. One was I did for free. I did a Detroit Music Awards, and one for Sylvain of the New York Times, and that's all I've really done. But I'm looking forward to getting on the road later next year, and possibly with Romantics too as well. Yeah.
So where are we with the Romantics? Because you have your new album. Do you plan on doing a new Romantics album? And if so, what kind of sound do you go for? Do you sort of hark back to the 1980s, or do you say no, 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 it's 2021 or 2022? Let's move forward.
Yeah, I get asked that a lot, but you don't really, it's not about sculpting a sound. You're doing what you have inside you. You can't, uh, you can manufacture a sound, but it's more, everything comes out better if you're doing it right from the heart, right from what you've grown up with, and not worry about the charts or the scene or what's happening now. Um, you keep your eyes and ears open. There's the garage scene and the grunge scene, and all that. That happened, and all I can draw from is I'm drawing from uh, uh, the '60s teen club scene with the MC5, and early Bob Seger when he was writing protest songs, and Alice Cooper, and when the Who was out. And I'm drawing from my influences from as a kid, early guitar player, really, and then learning about John Lee Hooker and BB King, and Peter Green from Fleetwood Mac, the guitar player, great blues guitar player, and uh, you take from all that stuff, the Yardbirds and the Who, and you just keep moving it forward in your own way. And that's your best bet when you put your money down. Uh, you're doing it from your heart, and you're doing it from what you've learned from you can't take anything away from
from
you.
from, from the whole experience. Let me just quickly
Yeah.
ask you, Cause, of course, who came in and replaced you,
Yeah.
stayed with the band for many years afterwards. How
Um,
was that for you? I mean, was it sort of strange? Because I mean, he does appear on In Heat. He does. Was it strange to sort of have both guys at the same time?
no, we were geared towards success. We are
Smart.
geared toward doing shows, playing the Romantics. I'd switch on to guitars. I'd play guitar with them, and it became just a touring thing. We were on the road and in the studio a few times, and we worked together, wrote together, and um, toured together. I mean, we were a band, and we did the normal things, and um, then he filed a lawsuit against us with our former manager, and we went through all that, and he was gone. So. And then I jumped over to guitar on for full time 2011. Yeah,
Always an adventure in bands.
yeah.
Now that you've done the
Cost us
solo
so much
album,
money.
oh, bands, it's a great existence. Where do we go in terms of making, or in terms of the solo career? Is that something that you want to focus on and get more solo albums made?
I'm going to take it as it comes because yeah, I feel like I've got a lot left in me as far as songs and I've got a few some I've got friends in Detroit. Uh, I brought guitar players and different people in on this record. I plan to keep doing that. I'm not just going into Detroit one time, getting them to play on it. Just something I'm going to keep rolling along with. There's a lot of Detroit talent, and I've got Ricky Rat who came in from Dead Boys. He toured with Dead Boys. He's a guitar player, and he's a real good mix with me. The way we play. I'll use probably Brad again, and who knows? I mean, I'll just go forward. First, I need to push this as much as I can and get my name out there. And that's the reason I didn't put a title on the record because it probably would have been not distracting, but it's more of a clearer intention when I said Mike Skill. This is Mike Skill right here. And if I called it something else, I think it would have been uh, uh, a little camouflage instead of the intention right in your face, Mike Skill,
Yeah,
Skill, Mike Skill.
yes, like Bond, James Bond. I love it.
Yeah, it falls into that. But yeah, it's really about my last name Skill and Mike Skill. Yeah, it's both. But yeah,
In terms
I
of
love James.
working solo and working in a band, are they two sort of separate things, and you like both equally, or was this one more rewarding, or do you like the band vibe, like in terms of
Well,
putting it together?
with the band vibe, I'll bring a song idea, and then I've got to either leave room or back off on parts of it. Some of the songs have to get chopped up, and someone else says, "No, let's not do that. Let's do this." And I got to back off and go, "Okay, I have this idea. Give it to these guys," and then it's kind of like I got to share it. I got to share it, which is fine. I'm going for the end result. It doesn't always happen like that. Sometimes, a lot of times, I have the full song. Well, I usually do bring in the full song, but or the full idea. It could be a title, it could be a guitar lick, but usually it's a full song. Uh, this project, it's not really a project. This life that I'm creating here with this music. Uh, uh, what was I getting at? It's stuff that was that had to come out that it came out of me and I heard myself singing it. I didn't hear myself going, well, I'll give this to him and maybe he can sing it. It was stuff that, wow, this works for me. I can do this. So, I'm writing and I can sing and play it. So it's already in that vein. So I don't have to give it up. I don't have to give any portion of it up. Not money wise. I mean, creative wise. Um, I'm not worried about the other. I just the music's the important part for me. The creativity, the development, the ins and outs, the pain of finishing a song, the pleasure of finishing a song, the ease that sometimes they come out really easy and sometimes it's work. So it's a craft. It's like painting,
Yeah,
drawing and painting.
and it's so rewarding when you get to have your vision out there. Of course, folks can pick up the album right now at mikeskill.com. It's on the streaming services
Yeah.
as well. Um,
Mitch, it feels so good to do all that, and then I get to talk to you about it. It's just it's a great, it's a pleasure. It's
yeah,
just real cool.
and also there's a certain pride in it because it is your baby and entirely your baby, and you sink or swim based on, and it's great.
Well, are you doing your show is your
Yeah.
own, right?
Yes, of
Uh,
course.
Now, you think it might be completely different if you were on a radio station or if you're
Of course I
working?
would.
Yeah,
It'd be better. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah.
No, no,
No,
but
no, no, no. That's not what I'm saying.
no.
Creatively, there'd be barriers. I think there'd be
Oh,
barriers. Yeah,
100%. And
yeah,
I've experienced those barriers, and I'm
yeah.
not
I'm
going to
sure.
name which companies, but
Yeah,
the show can only be an hour. The show can only be this. You can only, I would book a guest like Boy George, and they'd say, no, 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 you're the rock
oh,
guy. You can't have Boy George on there.
oh, really?
And it'd be like, but that's a good guest. So I do this completely independently now, and it
What
does
a great
quite.
writer he is. He's a great writer. What a great songwriter.
He's a great writer, and
Yeah.
this month alone, listen, I'm doing you. I've done Rick Ashley. I've done the New
Oh,
Kids
wow.
on the Block. I did Slayer. I'm going
Nice.
all over the place, and that's what I like. And most fans that listen aren't just a metal fan or just a rock
Yeah,
fan or just a Duran Duran fan. They sort of grew up and said, you know what, I like Hungry Like the Wolf and I like Talking in Your Sleep.
yeah,
And guess what? I like Photographed by Def Leppard.
yeah.
And it's, yeah. So I know
And, and,
exactly what you mean. Being in
and I like the
control is the
Ramones.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, hey, I
Yeah.
was listening to 53rd and 3rd just the other day. So, you know, um,
We
anyway,
toured with those guys. We toured with those guys.
how
We
was that, by the way? Because that
first
must have
album,
been wild.
first album, yeah. We both had vans. We're in our little white van, and eventually we got a bus. They were still in the van. Uh, I just remember on stage playing like romantic a romantic song called "Night Like This," and there's a break in it where Wally plays harp and the drums are going, and I walk off the stage and I'm standing there and I'm standing next to Joey and says, "How you doing?" I'm going, "Holy, how you doing?" I go, "Man, I love your band. I love your band." Both of us, both groups, we couldn't get airplay if we wanted to. If we gave them for, if we paid them, we couldn't
Right?
get.
Little payola. They wouldn't take
Yeah,
it.
yeah, we couldn't. Our sound was so different to the radio that was going on at the time in the late '70s and early '80s. Uh, we couldn't get airplay. I'm going, man, it's tough out there, isn't it? He goes, yeah. And I go, I love your band. He goes, I love you guys too. He goes, dig you guys. I love pop music. And I go, I didn't. I know I read about that, but just to hear him say it, it felt really cool. And in the end, he was into all the girl groups of the '60s and all that kind of really cool stuff that I liked that I grew up on. But just to stand next to the guy and be able to tell him how I dug the band was a really pleasure. They'd show up and they'd get there, they'd pull up. We'd already sound check. We were about ready to go on, and they'd just pull up, jump out of the van. They had a trunk. Every town they went to, every little town they went to, they'd send their road manager out, and they'd go to the resale shops and they buy all the leather jackets they could find, all the bike jackets. Um, and they had this big like a drum trap case, and it was full like of leather jackets. So they'd take them back to New York probably and sell them.
That's right.
But
That's why CBGBs became John Varvatos. They're selling all those.
oh
They're selling all
yeah,
the leather jackets.
t-shirt for $90.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah,
I went to Varvatos with a friend of mine a couple of years ago, and he bought all these T-shirts for $90. He spent like $3,000, and I went, "It's a T-shirt." He goes, "No, it's a comfortable T-shirt. You've never worn a T-shirt like that." I go, "I'll live. Trust me.
just run over it with your car a few times.
Yeah,
Roll over
I'll
it
be
with
good." And by the way, it's funny that you say that you didn't have a sound for radio or whatever back then, because I can't imagine '80s radio without Talking in Your Sleep, without What I Like About You. I mean, though those are iconic songs of the era. I mean, when you do a greatest hits '80s, you think "Flock of Seagulls I Ran," you think "Talking in Your Sleep." I mean,
Well, then there's all the
"Cars"
groups
by Gary Newman. I mean, come on.
XTC, XTC,
Yeah.
XTC, and
Dear God, that was
The Clash finally got airplay.
yeah.
Uh, uh, yeah, XTC and the other group, I can't think of it right now. Hot Black Coffee in Bed. Um,
Black Coffee in Bed. I'm trying to think. That's not Gino. No, Gino Vanelli is Black Cars. Black Cars look
uh,
better in the da-na-na. That's a good song, by the
I'll think of it.
way.
I'll think of it.
But there you
So
go.
that's,
Anyway, as we say in Montreal, merci, an absolute pleasure. It's always great to talk to you.
well, thank you, and I can't wait to get up there where you are. I love Canada and love to go there. And we go up to Vancouver. I'm on the West Coast. I grew up in Detroit about quite a while back. Met my wife, and she's from Portland, and she was a dancer with the Tubes when we were on the road. We met
Wow.
on the road with Romantics, and she's from Portland, and we go up to Vancouver, BC a lot. We go up there
Oh
in
well,
the spring,
let's
and
get you over
yeah,
to Montreal and to Ottawa and this part of the world.
yeah,
It could be fun.
a
Let's do
different
it.
world.
It's a great
Yep.
thing. But anyway, there you go.
Yeah,
Merci. Always a pleasure.
yeah,
And folks, Skill, Mike Skill, available now. And of course, let's make it easy. Head over to MikeSkill.com.
yeah.
There you go.
All for your rock and roll madness.
That's what I like. And yeah, it's great stuff. Thank
Yep.
you, sir.
Thanks, man. Mitch, take it easy, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and I'm glad we got this done.
Thank you, sir.
Perfect.
Au revoir.
Let me turn off the recording.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. All right, let me